Right. Very good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another Fans React Friday live show here at the usual time, 7 p.m. I'm joined by two of the usual ugly faces. I've got Dom and Ben with us, as is quite often the case. And we've got Alex joining us again, following last week's post-managerial sacking special. So, Alex, I'll start with you. How are you doing, mate? All right?
I'm all right, pal, yeah. Yeah, you
Nice
okay?
one. Yeah, all good, man. All good. Ben, how you doing? I see the tash is still keeping going strong on the top lip there.
I had to give it a bit of a trim, but no, it's still there, still making a little bit of an appearance. But no, I'm well, Dom. You know,
you well, Dom, are you? Because I think I'm
John
joining you like
because I'm so used to Dom doing it. You can tell.
It's all right, mate. Talk to the hand. Talk to the hand. I'm not having
it. No, this is not a good start, innit?
Well, speaking of Dom, since Ben's mind's on him, Dom, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm all right. I'm feeling good. He's getting the Durham lads mixed up. It's disgraceful from you.
Yeah, well, you know, when you're from God's country, mate, it's an easy mistake to make. Right. So, obviously, another jam-packed week in Sunderland AFC. We've had a football match, you know, because that's what the club's actually sort of exist to do, is play football matches. We've had the end of the transfer window and all of the intrigue that goes with that. And obviously, the Rotherham match wasn't just a football match. It was the first match of Tony Mowbray's official tenure as manager, or head coach, I should say, of Sunderland AFC. So we'll start, you know, with chronologically the first thing of the week was, of course, it was the appointment of Tony Mowbray, but that goes in quite well with the game. So Rotherham on Wednesday night. Obviously a positive result. Nice to be able to come on and talk about picking up 3 points. Mowbray's first game officially taking the reins in the dugout after the backroom team took the Norwich game at the weekend. So I'll start with Dom. What did you make of the game? I mean, obviously, you know, we played Norwich at the weekend, but we don't really want to talk about that too much. You know, we're not only talking about defeats with caretaker coaches. We want to focus on the good stuff. We want to focus on the Rotherham game. So, what did you make of it?
To be honest, when you hear the phrase "start as you mean to go on," I don't think there's a better example in football in terms of the fact that first home win of the season, first clean sheet at home of the season, and you know, you've got 3 goals in a game. Come on, that's what you want from a manager's first home game as well. A boost. Everyone said before the game, get behind him, because obviously some people weren't very happy with Mowbray, and I'll quickly touch upon it, but I won't get too dragged into it. When you think of the possible other candidates, you had Dyche, Keane in there. There was Scott Parker for about 5 minutes. When you think of all of them, Mowbray is the most experienced head in here for the division. He gets a lot of stick for finishing mid-table with Blackburn, but to be honest, I thought Blackburn's side was a good looking little championship side, and I don't see why he can't push for greatness with us. He knows obviously what we're about, being a northeast lad himself. So I was happy with the appointment, and I think the way we just went about this game, you had Jack Clark just looking like a completely different man out there. It was like that was the winger. That's who we brought in. Like when you think of games prior, even this season, where his defensive and tracking back hasn't looked that convincing. But to the other night, that is the Jack Clark we paid the money for, and that's the Jack Clark that we're hoping to keep this season. If that's what Mowbray can bring out of him, then I'm all for it. Same goes for Stewart, obviously getting on the score sheet as well. It's when you think about it, I don't think much could have been done to make it better. Obviously, you can score as many goals as you want, but performance-wise, everything just looks totally convincing, and that moves us up to 8th now. I know it's very early doors still, but the table doesn't lie, does it? You're there for a reason. So I don't see why there isn't reason to be excited if this is how it starts under Mowbray. If this is Mowbray ball, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. The phrase you use there, "start as you mean to go on," pretty much sums it up for me, I think. Because, I mean, we should touch on it briefly. The Norwich game at the weekend, Neil had just walked out. Don't think you can read too much into it because the players were sort of treading water, weren't they? The coaching staff were just trying to basically say to them, go out and do roughly what you know how to do. So it was much more interesting to see how we'd set up against Rotherham. And yeah, like you say, if that's setting your stall out, then he's done a cracking job, hasn't he? And Jack Clark, yeah, definitely deserves special mention because he was fantastic, wasn't he? The ball for the Stewart's second goal with the outside of the foot was lovely around the defenders. Obviously, the run and finish for his goal was top class. Yeah, that is the like you say, that's the Clark we thought we were getting when he came in last season on loan, and it's nice for him to finally start showing it when we've paid the money for him. Alex, I'll come to you next, mate. What did you make of it? What were your thoughts on the game?
The Rotherham one.
Yes, the Rotherham game, the good one, the nice one.
Yeah, no, I think it was very good. And I think as well, we last played them at home in League One in April, and it was awful. And I mean, both teams haven't changed too much in terms of players coming in. I think most of our team played in that fixture in April, and it just shows how far we've come on, I think, because we absolutely battered them. I thought Rotherham were rubbish. Whereas in April they made it, quite tough and quite physical for us, and that was quite apparent. I thought as well. They were quite a large team. The lad Norton Cruffy, is it Norton Cuffy from Arsenal? Yeah, he was good going forwards, but defensively, Jack Clark had him in knots. He was like a pretzel. That I think, since Jack Clark, I think that's the best individual performance at the Stadium of Light since Eden Hazard in 2013 in the 4-3 game with Chelsea.
Yeah.
He absolutely ran the show. And just sort of mirroring what Dom said there about Stewart, I mean, he's just absolute complete forward, isn't it? There's nothing in his game that he's lacking. And I think the club have done very well, actually, to keep hold of him throughout the summer. A long may it continue. I think the signs are there. We've shown that, we can hold our own at this level. And hopefully with the additions that we've brought in, the sky's the limit. I know we'd all probably sit here and agree that consolidating ourselves this season would be brilliant. But as long as you don't go down and finish as high as we can, I think sky's the limit.
Yeah, nice to hear some positivity. It's nice to be able to talk about games that put smiles on our faces. And yeah, like you say, that performance from Clark, obviously we've all spoken about him so far. It's nice to see like a single player take a game by the scruff of the neck, really make a difference and get a sort of direct impact on the scoreline. We've seen, Pritchard's had games where everything that's been good has gone through him, but Clark was really decisive. I think one of the big criticisms that we had of him last season was final ball was lacking at times, didn't quite have the intelligence to know when to come inside, go outside. Whereas I thought the other night he was top class, wasn't he? And it was quite a mature performance. Ben, last but not least, to speak about the Rotherham game. Positivity so far, is that something you share?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't not be positive, about that. Rotherham unbeaten so far this season. Managed to get results. A couple of other teams, whether they've been decent teams or not, by the by, isn't it? But 3-0 at home, clean sheet, solid performance from the off. You can't not be pleased with that. Probably just echo what all of you were saying, really, saying about Clark. Probably his best appearance in a Sunderland shirt, without a doubt. Looked worth £10 million for some of the how he was going about his business on Wednesday. But no, it's just nice to see. I was wondering whether there might have been a bit of a let off sort of Norwich, and today at Wednesday at Rotherham, with Neil going, is it going to affect the players? Is the morale going to drop? But certainly Saturday, obviously we didn't get the result, but on Wednesday, we put in good performances. We took the game to Norwich and we were unlucky not to get a point there. And Rotherham, we came out firing, and that's what I was scared wasn't going to happen So I'm relieved in a way. But no, I think Mowbray, come in, and he obviously said a little bit of something to him at half time just to try and buck him up a little bit. And then second half, we were just lights out. It was fabulous. But so yeah, all positive, all positive.
Nice, I like it. This is a good start. Just to touch on what you said there about Mowbray, obviously, I think the first half we looked quite good, and then, like you say, it came out in the second half and just blew them away, really, didn't we? They just couldn't keep up with us. So Ben, I'll come back to you first. Do you put that down to Mowbray himself? Do you put that down to his influence? Do you think it's maybe just one of them things where the lads have kicked on another gear, just sort of found it within themselves? Because something that I was interested in seeing with Mowbray coming in is, how much is he going to change? Does he want to put his own stamp on it? Because obviously, like I said, against Norwich, I think we would all agree that it was kind of a continuity team selection from the coaching staff. And the lineup looked pretty similar to the lineups we've seen throughout this season so far when Mowbray picked the team for Rotherham. So how much of that performance do you think, if any, is down to him as a manager, and what sort of impact do you think he'll have going forward?
I think the team probably, at the minute anyway, picked itself. You could argue Sims has sort of gone off the boil a little bit, so maybe bringing Roberts on from the start, maybe not up front, maybe switching formation 3 up front. But it's strange, really, because he said in his sort of post-match interview, he said, the squad's pretty much there. All I've had to do is just take a training session, come in, all the lads know what is required of them, and they can just go out there and do the jobs. So I think a little bit of that. I think you've got to credit Neil. I think the way he sort of set the team up, sort of psychologically, mentally, what do you want to get into this game? And I think Tony Mowbray now will come in and just probably solidify that. Watching his things, he looks a bit of a character, Mowbray. He's sort of listening to his press conference earlier with Speakman. He's saying, I'm quite one of them that likes to put my arms around players, and, he wants to love them. So it seems like a weird mix between sort of Neil and Johnson in a way. Johnson wanted to mollycoddle the players, and then you've got that hard-nosed sort of Neil with Mowbray as well when it's needed. But he gets it. He will get it. He will show, and tell the players what's expected of them if you want to play for Sunderland. So look, I'm looking forward to a long and successful reign, but I think sort of about your question, Johnny, I think pretty much the team's picking itself at the minute. And I think, Dodds and all of them on the bench, they've managed to keep the ship steady in Neil's, in our managerless state. So let's see how we go.
You're on thin ice there, praising Dodd's, mind. You'll be getting some hate mail through your letterbox.
It's probably not so much them. I think the players, when that 11's out there, they know what they need to do. Same formation, the same style of play. It's all down to them, really. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see as it goes on whether he wants to change any formations, bring certain players in, or whatever. But no, it's exciting. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like you say in that press conference, Tony Mowbray's not a manager I would look at and associate with the word love. But if that's his approach to the man management, then fair play. Alex, I'll come to you. Same question as to Ben. What impact do you think Mowbray's had so far, if any, and what do you see him bringing as the season progresses?
Well, I think in terms of his impact on the game, I think he was quite complimentary after the Rotherham game, whereby he said Mike Dodds and Proctor had, done most of the work. He didn't really have to do much, which is surprising, really, because Mike Dodds couldn't motivate a blue pill to give himself a hard on, I don't think. But I think it was more the psychological element, if anything. Yeah. I think your players across the board, not just on that game. I think even in the training sessions, you'd think the likes of your Patrick Roberts and your Elliot Embletons that maybe haven't had the minutes that they've liked so far this season would be given that extra 10% to try and push their way into the team. From what Blackburn fans were saying when we got him in was he's a fantastic man manager, and I think players really respect him and really like him. And I think I'm right in saying that he takes kind of more of a backseat in terms of the coaching stuff, and he's more like almost like a granddad around the place, which is. But to be honest, we need it at the minute because with our squad, it's like a crash. So I think it's good that, I know Christian Speakman's been blamed a lot for not bringing in some experienced players. But I think when you bring in someone like Mowbray, who's had 500 odd games as a manager in the Championship, with success to an extent, finishing, getting Blackburn back up into the Championship and then stabilising them in the division, just falling away from a playoff push at the final hurdle last year. I think he will bring that to us. I think, like I said before, the sky's the limit with this team. I think, like I said before in the WhatsApp group to some of you lads, I'd rather have the likes of your inexperienced Ewis and Bennett and your Abdullah Bar as opposed to champion experienced Josh Scowen and players like that. I think it's an exciting time, and the average age in the Blackburn squad was just over 23, which is the same as ours, and Mowbray got them sitting in 8th. So hopefully he can work up something quite similar with us.
Yeah, it's a good point that you make there about the average age being, I believe it might have even been exactly the same.
It was, yeah.
In this squad as it is in Blackburn, 23.16, yeah. Which I think speaks as well to the fact that sort of blueprint we've been working under with bringing in the young players and developing them is pretty firmly entrenched at the club now. Speakman's clearly got his feet under the table, and that philosophy is very, very obviously guiding every action taken behind the scenes, because they moved quite quickly to bring in Mowbray, which was a good thing. It's what they had to do. We had to bring somebody in pretty quick. We saw last time that you can't be affording to lose 2 games to caretaker situations, and it seemed to me from the outside looking in like they almost already had a shortlist drawn up anyway of management candidates or head coach candidates, which already fit the profile, and Mowbray already being in the area and having worked with Stewart Harvey in the past, it just seemed like the perfect fit already. So yeah, I think I'd echo what you said about Mowbray. He's got a young, exciting group, and fingers crossed he can work something similar, if not better, to what he did at Blackburn with the lads. Dom, I'll come to you finally for your thoughts. Again, same question. What are your thoughts on Mowbray? What has he done since coming in, and what can he do?
Well, I'll keep it short because these two have basically got it spot on. So there's not really much I can add to it. The squad is there. The talent is clearly there. So, of course, you need a good manager for the league, which we have, I think. I think that positivity and reiterating the stuff that we've already been trying to do so far in the season is very important. But at the same time, you've already got that squad. And I'm going to give Dodds and Proctor some credit as well, which I will probably get some stick for. But watching the Norwich game, we didn't look out of it. So obviously, like, you've got to be doing something right. If the morale can be so low when our first team manager is still by contract our first team manager, and he's not even at the game, he's watching someone else, and the fact that they're still able to put up a fight against Norwich, who, even though they haven't had the greatest starts to the season, they are still a good Championship side. They will want to be up there fighting for promotion. So the fact that we weren't out of the game the whole time, it was only a few good substitutions made by Norwich that won them the game, in my opinion. So obviously the squad know what they're doing. They've got their individual roles, as Ben and Alex have said. They know what they're doing. The right person, I think, is Mowbray to just keep them on the ground and make sure that they're heading in the right direction. Obviously, he's worked with Corey Evans in the past as well, so there's that working relationship with them. So I'm very happy about that there is promising with that. And like Alex said, you would rather take risks at the moment instead of getting the Championship experience, because when you think of the last time we were in this division, that's all we did. We looked for Championship experience and we went down. Getting experience doesn't guarantee results. So why not take a risk? We've got an exciting squad and the future does look bright. So I don't really see why we can't do much with Mowbray at the helm.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's all been spot on, like you said, and it does look like the start of a particularly promising time at the club. So before we move on and discuss the transfer window in its entirety, now that it's the window's shut following deadline day, just a little shout out to the people in the chat. We've got some of the usual suspects. We've got Acacia, Evening Acacia. We've got Joanne Punchin. I see Lauren Kenny's in the chat. Sean's joining us tonight on a rare Friday night off work. So evening to Sean. We've got Will Allen, Steve Usher. We've got James Whale. A lot of comments coming through, which we will of course discuss some of those throughout the course of the show. A lot of positivity echoed in the chat, like what we've been saying. Some decent support for Mowbray being shown. Got Keith Madison saying wasn't overwhelmed at the link with Mowbray at the time, but looking at it, it's the right man at the right time. We've got a lot of positivity for Jack Clark. David Joblin saying Jack Clark, Superman on Wednesday, going to get better and better. Premiership, maybe one day, maybe not next season, but fingers crossed. So keep the comments coming in, guys, and we'll engage with those as the show goes on. So, coming on to transfers, we've got a comment from James Whale. That era under Coleman, last time in the Championship, was so bleak. Scouting was so bad, it was like we were playing Football Manager with attribute masking on. I think it was more like playing Football Manager with a database about 5-10 years out of date, the way our recruitment team was going on. Obviously, the strategy is a complete 180 from those days. I think it's pretty well documented. We've got a policy of not spending money on players over the age of 23, I think, or 24. We bring in a lot of these young prospects, 4 of whom were unveiled on Wednesday night at the Stadium of Light. Michoud, Bar, Diallo. Or was it 3? Michoud, Bar, and Diallo, I think.
Bennett as well.
Bennett was there as well, yeah.
And the official unveiling of Bennett as well, which was kind of our deadline day, really. Deadline day, pre-deadline. But yeah, we've now that the dust has sort of settled a bit, we've obviously been quite active, bringing in a decent number of players throughout the window. You know, Alisi, Dan Ballard, Bar Michoud, Bennett. You know, all of these signings, a majority of whom are just about out of training pants. I'll come to Ben first. What's your overall impression of the window? Do you think it's been a positive one, or do you think we're lacking still?
I think it's been very positive. I think Speakman will be probably very happy. Solid 8.5 from his point of view of sticking to his model of, you know, this over 24 sort of thing, not paying any fees and all of this. So it certainly looks good. You know, Elise, Ballard, you know, I think Ballard could be huge for us in the next couple of seasons. Obviously, Clark, if he keeps playing the way he does, like he did on Wednesday, he'll be a revelation. So I'm happy. I think probably a centre half short, honestly. But for me, you know, we could easily see someone from the under 23s coming in for a game and trying to prove themselves. And, you know, and I think Mowbray's probably the man to do that. He's good with youth prospects. So it all seems like it's all sort of coming together at this time for us. But no, I'm very happy. I think it's quite funny with all 4 of them on the pitch. It was like a bit of a statement, wasn't it, to Alex Neil, I think. So,
he wasn't backed.
No, he wasn't, was he? So, but look, you can't not see the business that we've done and not be excited. I think you've got to be a fool, to be honest, to not think that some of these young lads are going to potentially tear up the Championship, which would be wonderful. I mean, Diallo, when he's firing well, he can be a real handful as well. Michoud, you know, got some good praise from PSG. So, and this Abdullah Bar as well, saw some clip of him on Twitter absolutely rinsing about 5 defenders or whatever. So it's, you know, it is encouraging, you know, looking forward to it. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, promising signs. And I think what is nice as well, before we move on to Dom to give his opinion, you mentioned Mishu and Diallo, obviously two of the more high-profile players. Diallo obviously on loan from Man United, and Mishu on loan with an option to buy from PSG. Both of whom have actually got first-team experience with both of those clubs, which I think is pretty huge. Obviously, Bennett coming in for reportedly around or up to $1 million, I think. 18 years old, full international, obviously, gets people excited, but, doesn't have experience in a top division, whereas Mishu and Diallo in particular have played and got goals and assists for, top European sides, which I think sort of underpins that whole philosophy. It's not just about bringing in people who are young. It's about bringing in people who've got something about them and maybe something to prove, and give them a platform to showcase that. So, Dom, I'll come on to you next. Transfer window obviously is closed, so no more speculation about deals. That's banned until January. What are your thoughts on the business we did manage to get done?
Well, we can still get some free transfers. Nah, on a real, I think our business has been tidy. When you look at the big picture, you've got we brought Clark back in, we got Elise, Ballard, Sims on loan, of course. Juice and Bennett, a big risk, I think, but it may be one that will prove to pay off. We'll just have to wait and see. I think, as you've mentioned there, Diallo, Mishu, and Bard, just very, very good bits of business, especially how Mishu's got an option to buy at the end of the season. I think if he comes good, we could have a bit of a player on our hands. Same with Diallo. We've seen him play European football for Man United and for Rangers, so he has got that big game experience under his belt. Obviously, we've got Dejaku as well. We brought in Bass, and then we extended Roberts, Gooch, and Patterson's contract. So overall, I think window-wise, even though we didn't really bring anything in on deadline day, I think we've done a tidy bit of business. 2 defenders, 4 forwards, a defensive midfielder, an attacking midfielder, and a backup goalkeeper. But Neil wasn't backed. The back room should be sacked and Speakman out. So, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough.
Pretty succinct summary there. Nice one, Dom. I think when you see it written down, I didn't realise sort of how attacking heavy our business was in the summer. But yeah, quite a lot of I think they're the signings that really excite people, aren't they? When you see forwards coming and you think that you imagine them scoring goals in front of a packed stadium or light, and maybe at Wembley or whatever, and it gets the blood flowing. Alex, I'll come to you. Again, transfer window. What are your overall thoughts? Sharing the positivity, feeling the love?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's exciting. Obviously, it's hard to kind of gauge, isn't it? Because these lads are, relatively unknown, young lads, and correctly they'll be judged on how they play football for Sunderland. Obviously, with the young lads, we've got to give them some time to settle in. I don't expect any of them to sort of be thrown straight in and expected to hit the ground running, as in the ones that perhaps Diallo maybe. But no, it's good. I think, personally, I would have liked maybe one more defender in, preferably at fullback. I think we're a little bit light there. I know that they tried to get the lad from Leeds, Cody, can't pronounce his second name. Drama, is it? Drama?
Something like that.
Yeah. They tried to get him in yesterday, as well as the lad at Wolves, the centre-half, Mosquera, centre-half. And that one didn't happen because the Craig Dawson move from West Ham to Wolves collapsed, so they kept hold of him. So they were looking to get a couple in yesterday, but I think, if Speakman and more importantly Mowbray say that they're fairly content with the squad, what they've got at the disposal, then that's good enough for me. I think, there's going to be questions asked. Could we have added 1 or 2 more experienced players? Are we a little bit too reliant on youth, pushing that model a bit too much? But I think whichever way the club went about it, whether we brought in 2 more, 2 less, more experience, more youth, Speakman and whoever else in charge is going to be questioned regardless. So I think, we should back him. I think he's brought in some really good players on some really good deals, and it's exciting times.
Yeah, I think most fans would agree, wouldn't they? It's very clearly a blueprint for future success, which being at the beginning of that journey, not to sound too Lee Johnson, it's an exciting time. We've got a lot of potential in the squad, and fingers crossed they can realise that over the next couple of seasons.
Just to add as well, it's funny, Alex Neil didn't want Ellis Sims on loan. He wanted Jayden Stockley brought in on a permanent deal, and the club weren't keen. I also thought it was funny how he's been complaining about, lack of experienced players being brought in for this level. Goes to a club that can't spend any money and brings in a 21-year-old right back on loan from Chelsea on deadline day. So,
yeah, I mean, I wonder what reasons he could have possibly had for making that switch. Couldn't have been any sort of paper changing hands, or I'm not sure. It must have been sporting integrity. Just to touch on what you said, though, Alex, you mentioned about, could we possibly brought in some cover at the back? I think full back, we are possibly a little bit light. We've had a couple of comments. Will Allen saying O'Nien will play every position at the back. And there was a comment further down, which I'm struggling to find right now, but basically talking about here, Steve Usher, surprised at Winnie Esther going out on loan. And again, mentioning he can play several positions. Obviously, we've seen him play right back in a 4. We've seen him play in the middle in a back 3. So possibly do we think that, O'Nien over the last few weeks stepping up and looking a bit more at home in that back 3 maybe alleviated some concerns on the need to bring in another replacement, or is that still sort of a major worry, do we think? I'll come to you again, Alex, on that just because you brought the point up.
Yeah, I think O'Nien, I do think how he's performed over the last couple of games in that sort of wide centre-half position on the right-hand side, I think he's performed obviously very well. I don't think it changed the club's view, though, in terms of bringing in an additional centre-half. I think that was always a plan. But I personally think that's his best position, centre-half. I think he's far better with the game being played in front of him. I don't think he's a centre midfielder, and he's never going to be. And I think as well when he's playing in that central midfield role, I think he knows it himself. I think there's a different sort of aura about him, almost as if he knows he isn't meant to play in that position. I think he is a defender, and yeah, it's good that he's played so well. Some of them tackles he put on Tuesday night were absolute crunchers. Wednesday night, sorry. Long may it continue. He's been very good for 2 games, and hopefully he can keep that up. It's a long ask over a season, as long as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you wouldn't maybe want to see him being the first name on the team sheet, but he's put some shifts in. We've got a comment there from, I think that's Roker Reports Gav. Speakman hasn't been perfect. Handling of the LJ sacking and Defoe signing was a disaster. But we're far better off now than when he took over the job.
Absolutely.
I think probably an opinion we all share.
Are you listening, Tom?
In-house in the old Fans React WhatsApp, there's often some heated debate behind the scenes discussing the merits of our sporting director, or lack thereof, as some would say. All in good faith, of course.
We're all friends.
Want SFC to do well.
We're all friends.
Yeah. So I think the sentiment towards Speakman seems to have turned in the general fan base, I think, a lot more positive over the past couple of weeks, seeing the plan sort of coming together a bit more. Just before we move on from that point, I'll come to Dom and Ben. Dom, you first. So, yeah, again, just on the point of defence being a bit of a weakness, do you feel like we needed another body in, or do you think we've got just about enough to cope at the minute?
I think we needed another one, to be honest. Obviously, O'Nien, like everyone has been saying for ages, for God knows how long, O'Nien is just perfect for that centre-back role. he can't really cut it in this division as a centre mid. I don't think he ever will, like Alex said. And obviously, this is hard because biased aside, for the Luke 09 fan club, Johnny, you'll feel my pain here, but let's be real. If I could have someone who's actually proven at the back at this level, I would rather have that over 09. If he could stay a squad player, that would be fine by me. But to be honest, as the games have gone by, he's looked more and more solid. Like the Norwich game, I thought he put in an absolute 10 out of 10 shift. I don't think there was much more he could have done. He didn't get booked on Wednesday, so that's a plus for once in the Championship, I think. So
I think we've got another member of the fan club here, Steve Usher. If I caught 09 in bed with my wife, I took him in and cheered him on.
Welcome.
But yeah, I think, like you say, Dom, even as fully paid up members of the fan club, squad player feels like the right role. I'm never, devastated seeing his name on the team sheet, especially in that back three. But you'd want him to stay in that role going forward. Ben, last but not least, tell us you love Luke 09 and we can move on.
No, I think we're all been spot on with him, to be fair. I mean, he's not got a, what's the word? He's not got a, hey, I can't speak. He's not got a future in midfield. That's what I'm trying to say. You can tell that he just looks so much more assured, certainly in a three. I mean, even if he needs to fill in at right back, he can. But he looks a different player than the one that played against Sheffield Wednesday midweek in the Carabao Cup when he was alongside Matete. They just both looked lost. And you see him playing at centre half on Wednesday and on Saturday against Norwich. He's good on the ball. He likes to have the play in front of him, and he's been doing well. So it's certainly an asset for us that we've got someone that can play in pretty much, like someone said there, any across the back line. So certainly a handy player to have, and I think we're quite lucky to have him. So all aboard the fan club.
Fantastic news. Yes. I can't speak now either. I'm catching off you, Ben. Final point from me on that one. I think if you put a gun to my head and said choose 09 or Winchester to leave on loan, I think I would have let Winchester go rather than 09, because I just think he's a little bit more sort of combative and has a bit more grit about him to play in that back three role. Like you say, some crunching tackles on Wednesday night. Not that I don't rate Carl Winchester. I do think he's a good player, but I'm happy to see 09 having a defined place in the squad for once after having 5 years without a sort of first position. But we'll move on to the final bit of transfer talk I want to cover. Anyone who watched the press conference today with Tony Mowbray and Christian Speakman would have heard them discussing Ross Stewart's contract situation. Speakman clarified that discussions have been ongoing since spring with Stewart regarding extending his stay at the Stadium of Light. He confirmed that Stewart's contract runs to the end of this season with a club option of a further year. So in effect, he's got 22 months left before he could leave on a free transfer, should the club exercise that option, which I'm sure they would. And he said that talks have been positive and the club remain hopeful of a positive conclusion. So by all accounts, from what we're hearing, it's no news, but that's not necessarily bad news just yet. And that there is the potential for Stewart to sign a new deal, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm sure we're all pleased to hear that. Loch Ness Drogba, one of our certainly most valuable assets monetarily, and we'd all want to keep him at the club. Does anyone have any concerns that he could leave? Does anyone see that happening in the near future?
I think the only worry for me at the minute is that does it have the potential to turn out with how this Neil deal has gone? That's my only sort of worry about it. But obviously he's Scottish, with that interest in Rangers, that could have easily been a very good move for him now that they're Champions League as well. I don't think any of us would have been very sad to see him go, but certainly for him as a player, that's a fabulous move. But look, as long as we can get it sorted as soon as possible, ideally. And sorry, Joanne's comment. Yeah, my mum and dad's dog's going a bit balmy for some reason, but Not too loud,
They
is
just
it?
love they love the Loch Ness Drogba. That's
I
why.
know, yeah. As soon as you mentioned Stewart, he's absolutely gone for it. But
Barking mad for him.
Barking, yeah. Good one, Bob.
Get your coat, get out.
I would say that I think now that the transfer window's closed, it should become a priority.
Yeah.
I think, like I said before, there's no attribute that he hasn't got to his game. I mean, on Wednesday night, I liked him in that sort of almost false 90 kind of role where he was dropping deep into midfield and pinging the ball left and right and getting himself into the box. And I think we need to avoid another sort of Josh Maja situation here. I mean, the longer it goes on, the more interest it's going to sort of harness from clubs, and then when agents get involved and try and get the best deal for the client and blah, blah, blah. But I think also Ross Stewart sort of emphasises the model that the club's taken on. I mean, I think he was brought in for 400,000 from Ross County.
Yeah, maybe it's even a little bit less, 300 and something thousand, yeah.
And at the start, I think everyone was like, Ross Stewart, he sounds like some geezer who would be like a special guest on A League of Their Own or something, you know, and then he's come in and he's been absolutely fantastic. And I think, I don't know if it's perhaps me having tinted glasses on, but bought in, you know, this model of buy low, sell high. I wouldn't sell Ross Stewart for less than £10 million.
I think 10 million is the minimum figure I'd put on him as well. I totally agree. I mean, you see Championship players going for that sort of money fairly regularly these days, don't you?
I mean, he's 26. He's just hitting the peak as well. So the more goals he scores, you know, he's only going to get better, Stewart. You know, he's picked up right where he left off last season, and we need to get that tied down, I think. But you know, I think what I would say is with this model that we've taken on, it's all well and good now bringing all these young players in, but in a couple of years when they do develop, it is the model to then move them on. So essentially, all our players are for sale. Essentially, so there is going to be some heartbreak, but we need to keep our best players for as long as possible, I think.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, obviously, buy low, sell high. We're going to lose players that we like, and we're going to have to replace them. I mean, even similar how Alex Neil's left, we're going to have to just get behind Mowbray and accept the replacement. But to sell high, you've got to have an asset under a decently long contract. And as much as it's good to know that Stewart's here till the end of next season at least, if it gets to the summer and he decides he wants to leave, a player with only 1 year left on his deal is not going to fetch anywhere near as much as somebody with 2, 3, 4 years left to run. So I think I totally agree. It's got to be a priority. I mean, even if you look at it purely with financial goggles on, that's got to get sorted out sooner rather than later. Dom, I'm assuming you're all aboard the Loch Ness Drogba hype train as well.
Oh, of course. How can you not be? Personally, I think if we're gonna get rid of him, like you say, buy low, sell high, make sure he's under a big contract, so they have to splash the cash. It's not about, oh well, his contract runs out really soon, so maybe we can steal him on a free. No, we've got to tie him down. Obviously, you want to keep your best players. You've got to be stupid to think, oh well, he's our best player at the club, flog him for a few mil. No, we've got to, like you say, Championship strikers are going for mental money these days. So if we can get as much money for Stewart, we've gone obviously on the thing of we do sell him. If we're going to sell him, we have to have a good enough replacement and as much money as we can for him. Yep. So I don't think he's going. I'll touch up when I say this. I don't think he's going anywhere just yet. I think he's happy where he is. But come the summer, we do need to make. I'd like to think he's got a long-term contract by the summer, to be honest.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Gav's saying there, Stewart's agent has to look after him too, echoing what Alex was saying. When agents get involved, obviously you've got multiple different avenues of interest. Best time to negotiate for Stewart will be when clubs are sniffing round. So if they wait till January, that could sort of force the club's hand a bit, and then if they can point to a concrete offer or some concrete interest and say, look, these are willing to pay X amount for him and offer him this much a week. What's your best offer? Then perhaps it could get to a situation where it's either stump up the cash or sell him, which I think is something we're going to have to try and get a bit streetwise to. We talked about the Josh Maja situation where the agent just sort of ran rings around us, and we've got to hope that the backroom team and Speakman and everyone who's involved with that and any contract negotiations have really got to be switched on to all this sort of stuff, which I'm sure they are. None of us are involved in that sort of negotiation, but yeah, I think it's definitely something that we've got to make sure we're wise to, in order to protect ourselves and build the best team. Because at the end of the day, it's about putting a good football team on the pitch, and you can't do that if your best players are leaving for no money every season. So yeah, something that we've got to, we've got to watch out for. Right, transfers discussed, Stewart's contract discussed. Back to the business of actually winning football matches on some grass with some white lines on it. We've got a game against this team. I don't think many of people have heard of them. Somewhere near the tees. Middle Summit.
At least the face masks are going to come in handy when we go there on Monday.
Yeah, we've got a game coming up on Sky Sports on Monday night against our nearest and dearest six-toed rivals. Middlesbrough FC and all of the associated digits that go along with their fan base. Obviously a high pressure encounter, and we don't actually have a fantastic record in the league against Middlesbrough over the past sort of decade or so. I remember when we came up to the Premier League with Roy Keane, we had some great games against them. But in recent times, it's been slim pickings. So Tony Mowbray, of course, ex-Middlesbrough himself, knows the area well. He's got to get the lads prepared and motivated and ready to face a team who were predicted by many to be up the top end of the division come the end of the season, who have had not quite such an auspicious start, sort of languishing lower down the table as it stands, obviously early doors. What are our thoughts on the game? Are we confident, or is it one of those where you sort of think typical Sunderland could slip in and maybe we make it into a bit more of a banana skin than it needs to be? Ben, I'll come to you first because I can see a little grin forming underneath that tash.
My lips are moving here, but no, it's a tricky one, isn't it? It's either one of them games where we're going to be going up there and giving it absolutely everything, just because it's whether people say it's a derby or not. Tony Mowbray calls it a derby, and that's what he'll be saying to the players. So they'll be going into it like that. So will Middlesbrough as well. So look, every game's a potential banana skin, isn't it? We could go anywhere and get battered. So it's it's tricky, but I think off current form, Middlesbrough have only won one of their first 7 games of the season to start. So with us at the minute, I think you can be reasonably confident. I think we could go there and get a very good result. I think anything less than a draw, I think I'd be pretty not happy, should we say. But no, I easily think we could go there, get the 3 points. Interesting to see if he'll keep with the same team, Mowbray, or if he'll mix things around, if he'll stick with the 3. But I think at the minute, it's probably if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So just keep going as they do. But it'll be interesting live on the telly. It'll be a good atmosphere in and around the stadium watching. So you've got to be optimistic, I think. But no, I'm sure one of you will put me down shortly. But
we'd never do that. We'd never do that, Ben. We all love you here, you and your Tash. It's fine.
Cheers,
Dom, I'll come to you next. Obviously, it is a big game. Ben mentioned there, Tony Mowbray calls it a derby. And obviously, there's quite a large proportion of each fan base, I think, would fairly consider it a derby. I mean, personally, I think it's not the same as playing Newcastle, but there's always something a bit extra when we play our neighbours from Teesside. How are you feeling about the game, and what do you think Tony Mowbray is going to be doing to ensure we come away with the 3 points?
If there's going to be anyone behind the scenes of Sunderland who's going to know what it's going to be between Sunderland and Middlesbrough, it's going to be Teesside boy Tony Mowbray. I think he knows exactly what's going to go down in these sort of games. We've seen it season in, season out, obviously when we've been playing each other, that these games do come with atmosphere and with a bit of aggro. Like you say, some people don't count it as a derby, some people do. Personally, I do. Obviously, like you say, it's nowhere near the size of playing Newcastle, but it's like a mini derby. I think this was on Twitter a few months ago that it'll never be what Sunderland Newcastle is. They're kind of there. They want to be up with us, but they're just not there. But we'll give them the time of day. If they want to treat it like a big derby, then yeah, why not? Let's just go in all guns blazing, wreck the joint. Why not? But no, on a serious note, this is going to be the game where we really see how Tony Mowbray Sunderland are going to play, because yes, he took training and obviously he was in charge for the Rotherham game, but he's had a whole week and a bit to prepare for this game. I don't think there's a bigger game in the calendar on the Championship fixtures for us. Really, they are our nearest and you could say dearest in this league. I don't think it's the right word, but
you're really our nearest anyway.
Yes, definitely our nearest. I don't know about dearest. And we'll just have to say, because, like I say, yeah, he's from Teesside, so everyone's going to be like, well, he might want to swing ways. We've got a statue of a Newcastle legend outside the ground, so it doesn't matter, really, does it? So I think, given the fact that they haven't had the start that they wanted, a lot of people pipped them to be a automatic promotion favourites, and they're currently 20th in the table. So I don't see why we can't go there and nick it. The stats are against us. I won't lie to us. Like Alex says, we haven't won at the Riverside in the league since 2005. For context, I was 2 years old when that game happened. So there you do go. Thanks to goals from Tommy Miller and a one Julio Arca.
Well, we got the free kick.
Yeah. So
what a goal.
That's how far we're going back. But if you look at the stats that do go in our favour, they've only won one game all season against Swansea. They've conceded 3 stoppage time winners this season. So they don't really have it all to keep it all together. So hopefully, if we're lucky, I don't see why, if we haven't wrapped it up already, we can't nick it in the death. There's a lot of things. They haven't scored more than 2 a game, and obviously we've just come back from a 3-0 win. So there are stats that do go for us. I think the best one for us is that 5 out of the 8 last meetings between Sunderland and Middlesbrough have ended in favour of 1 goal. So it's going to be a tight game. Hopefully, I think we have it in our locker to go and take it to them, and hopefully we'll be sat here next week thinking about how we've thrashed the 6-finger Smoggies.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, no offense to Middlesbrough fans. Yeah, fingers crossed. I think it's interesting though that we've touched on the fact that obviously Mowbray is from Middlesbrough. He's Borough lad. He's spent time at the club. He was talking in the press conference about how I think he was saying his youngest son, spends a lot of time in the stands at the Riverside and isn't best pleased with his dad managing the red and white striped neighbours. But we've got a comment there from Gav saying, it might not be a derby to us, but Borough certainly treat it like one. That's why they always beat us. Maybe it's about time we treated the occasion with more respect. So perhaps it could be a case of right man, right time to have Mowbray in charge, who, like you've said, definitely understands the weight of expectation that's felt from the other side in this equation. And of course, talking about Middlesbrough struggling at the start of this season, that could potentially give them even more of a sort of motivation to make a real statement, live on telly in front of the nation, against a team that they certainly consider a rival. You can debate it till the cows come home, but that's the fact. They see it as a big game, and even if you take the emotion out of it is a big game. A team is expected to do well, who've had a poor start, need to go and get 3 points and ideally put on a bit of a performance. So I think it's certainly poised to be an interesting game. I'll come to Alex now. Alex, what are you thinking? Are you as positive as some of what we've heard, or are you taking a slightly more measured approach?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? We play one team in Yorkshire on Wednesday and another one on Sunday. Monday, sorry. It's no. I think Tony Mowbray being in charge is a big factor. We all know how when we had Steve Bruce in charge, how he approached Newcastle games. He seemed to drop his arse, didn't he? Every time we played them. So hopefully Tony Mowbray kind of approaches it a bit differently. I think he'll go there and want to win. And if we do, I know you mentioned about his son having the season ticket in the South Stand at the Riverside Oak. If we beat them, Mowbray bombs it down the touchline and gives them the middle finger.
No, that would be beautiful, wouldn't it? That would be hard.
I think Borough are a good side. I think come the end of the season, I think they'll certainly be in a different position to where they are now. But when I think of it as a derby game, I think it might as well be now, mightn't it? I think in a few years' time, and Human Rights United are going to be playing against your likes of Man City and things like that at derbies. So it might as well be. But I always like to think of it, it's a bit of a different analogy, but I think it's if you've got two, like you and your brother, the same age, having a game on FIFA, you want to win. It's important. That's like us at Newcastle, and then you've got your younger brother who has a game against you, and you think it doesn't really matter, but you still want to fucking beat them anyway.
That's the best analogy I've ever heard for the whole Northeast rivalry thing. Well done, well done.
A round of applause for the analogy and for Human Rights United. I've got to say, I'm a fan of that one as well. I like it.
No, but I think with how we're playing, there's no reason why we can't go in there and get a result. I mean, Rotherham were absolutely shit scared of us when we were going forwards on Wednesday night, and they looked terrified. So I think there is a little bit element of pressures more on us than them. Obviously, the Tony Mowbray in charge, going back to the Riverside, and we're coming off the back of a good result. Whereas, like Dom said, they've picked up one win. They've got to get a result at some time, haven't they? I mean, Rotherham were unbeaten when they came to the stadium, and we absolutely played them off the park and beat them 3-0. So anybody can beat anybody, but I'm confident, and I think we'll go there and get a result. I think if you pick up any points away from home in this division, I think it's a good result. But hopefully we can go and get the win. But yeah, the Middlesbrough sort of our little brothers, I would say.
Right, so when we go and play the little brothers on Monday night, then we'll there'll be a scoreline at the end of the game. So let's have a few predictions before we clock off for the night and all return to our mundane lives that don't involve Sunderland FC. So we've got some comments in the chat. We've got the Red and White Army podcast with a bold prediction of 5-1 to Sunderland. I don't like talking about 5-1s in derby games, so we'll move on from that one pretty sharp.
It's been a decade, but still too soon.
It hurts. We've got Acacia saying she would say 4-0 to Sunderland, but Borough will score one, so we'll make it Sunderland 4, Middlesbrough 1. So we'll give them a little crumb. We'll let them have summit. I'll come to Alex again. We've got one more score prediction come through. James Whale saying 3-3. So predicting quite a lot of high-scoring predictions, a high-score draw, and 2 thumping wins for the lads predicted in the chat. Alex, what are you saying score-wise if you had to offer a prediction?
Excuse me. Yeah, I think it'll be close. I think there'll be just a goal or two in it. I think like what Gav, I know Gav's watching the stream from Roker Report, like he said in their transfer deadline day live Twitter space last night, Middlesbrough have always treated it more like a derby than we have, which they've probably put in the extra 10% to win the second ball, win the tackle. I think if we can match that, I think the quality in our side can beat anybody in this league. So I'm going to go for a Sunderland win, 1-0 or 2-1, but it has got 1-0 Duncan Watmore 90+4 hasn't it?
It does. The ex-Sunderland player curse might just come back and bite us. Bloody fingers crossed it doesn't. Dom, I'll come to you. What are you saying score-wise? Do you see the lads having a thumping win, or do you see Middlesbrough pipping us to the post?
I'm going to stick to the stats for this one, stick to tradition, as you will. I'm going to say 2-1 to the mighty Mowbray's Mackems, and for their goal, I'm going to say not Duncan Watmore, but Paddy McNair if he's fit. I don't know where he is these days. I'm pretty sure
his hamstring will snap 3 minutes in. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah, no, well, that's more than Watmore then. But no, I'm going to say 2-1 to Sunderland. Happy days.
Well, I like the positivity. Not as positive as Colin Major, who reckons we're going to have a nice little 9-0. I mean, we've seen one of those in the Premier League already this season, so why not? We're as good as Liverpool, aren't we? Ben, I'll come to you for a prediction, mate. What are you saying?
Well, it's got to be positive, haven't it? I always like to try and be a little bit positive. So I think there'll be a few goals in this game. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet for sure. I'm going to go 4-2 to us, with a nailed-on Paddy McNair and Duncan Watmore goal. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'll put a 5 on it. And I'll send you the photos.
Hey, tell you
You've
what, you're
done this about 3 Fridays, man.
The last time I did it,
it,
I actually won a bit of money, so I'm feeling confident.
Right, lads. Anyone who's looking for some betting tips in the stream, just don't listen to the last 30 seconds of this. Don't listen to Ben, okay? If you want to lose your money, put his tips on.
Every bloody episode, he says,
you'd be scared if it was 3-2 with 10 minutes to go, wouldn't you, eh?
Oh, I'll be shitting my pants if that's happening, mate. If you're right, the world's going to implode and there'll be no more fans react.
We can't let you be right, like that's not fair.
I'll be ringing Tony up and saying, right, get one to stick in your own net. I can't be having this.
Don't get Tom to put a bet on if it loses. It's definitely Speakman's fault.
You really got to think, if we lose tomorrow, like, why Speakman just not in the middle of the park scoring the goals himself? You know?
Well, I mean, Speakman got Dan Neil sent off against Sheffield United, as we all remember. So I'm sorry, Tom. We love you. We love you, Tom. No, I'm sure. Even Tom, if he was speaking to us right now, I'm sure he'd be positive as well. How can you not be positive after the week we've had? It's been a good week in the life of a Sunderland fan, and I'm going to round off that positivity by predicting a 3-1 win for the lads. I do think it'll be a tight game, but I think we'll go 2-1 up, and they'll commit men forward, and we'll hit them on the break with the pace of Clark and Sims and Roberts and whoever else is going to be on the pitch out of our 1,500 attackers we've got. To put the Borough lads to the sword and bring 3 points back to the Stadium of Light. And with that, we've covered everything we've got to cover for this Fans React Friday. So thank you, as always, to Dom, Ben and Alex for joining me this evening. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in, everyone who's left comments, anyone who's going to the Riverside on Monday. Make sure you take some protection. And we'll see you all next week for another Fans React Friday.